The Monkey Mind Podcast, your number one platform for athletes and mental health. Hosted by Danny Perez and Anthony Florentino.
This podcast is proudly sponsored by Daily Dose CBD Inc. Daily Dose CBD Inc. creates full-spectrum CBD products ranging from tinctures, balms, and dog treats. Research has shown that CBD has successful results in aiding in the following areas: anti-inflammation, anxiety, PTSD, help with breaking addiction, neuroprotection, epilepsy, arthritis, chronic pain, and sleeping disorders. Daily Dose makes an extremely safe and effective product that we know you will love, enjoy, and benefit from. So pick up some today at dailydosecbdinc.com and use promo code MonkeyMind15 for 15% off your purchases. That's promo code MonkeyMind15 for 15% off all your orders at dailydosecbdinc.com. This is episode 49 featuring Anthony Collins. Anthony is a professional hockey player for the Birmingham Bulls in the Southern Professional Hockey League. Let's get to it.
But so just give us a little background story on you, personal life, career, and we'll go from there.
All right. Going on my 9th year pro here now. Started 9 years ago playing in the Southern Professional Hockey League down in Mississippi. And actually, I met my wife there. So I'm glad, obviously, I had my time down there. And then just kind of grinded my way up and worked my way up to the East Coast Hockey League. And have been there for the past 8. And now back to the East Coast Hockey League. Seems like it's been kind of full circle for me now, but have a 6-year-old daughter as well, Isabella, who loves the boys, as Flo knows, and loves the hockey lifestyle that we live. So kind of blessed in that aspect to have them as my support cast as I'm going through this journey of pro hockey. Everyone knows it kind of has its ups and downs and your highs and your lows, but glad to have them with me for sure. So 9th year pro from Langley, British Columbia, Canada.
Obviously we haven't known each other very long, but if anyone looked at your elite prospects, you'd see, you paid your dues, and if anyone YouTubed you, that shows it for itself. You bring a different type of style that's, some people would say, is kind of fading from the game. So why don't you talk about, your role and, what you take pride in as a player?
For sure. Growing up, everyone wanted to be a scorer and the playmaker and, kind of the first line guy on a team. And, I feel like everyone at some point is that guy as you're growing up, but as you start getting higher levels and things like that, you kind of got to find your role on a team. You can't have a team full of those scorers and high profile guys. So after junior, or I should say middle of junior, I kind of found my niche as just being more of a grinder, role player, good leader, team guy. And drop the glove, stick up for teammates, block shots, stuff like that. Kind of take pride in that aspect of the grittier side of the game. It's definitely taking its toll on me for sure, physically, things like that. But it's also carved me out a 9-year pro career. So I have no regrets on the role that I play, and I do take pride of trying to be the best grinder, role player that I can be. And
it's from experience, it's definitely nice having you on the bench. It does give guys a sense of comfort and confidence. And I'll just get it out there, it's not fun being on the other side and actually having to fight you. But we talked about it last night. I had to mention it. Not my best idea, but going on that note, when it comes to knowing that role and embracing it and enjoying it, is there any downfall on the mental aspect that, leading up to a game, or knowing that you're probably going to end up having to fight, or it's going to be one of those tougher games? Is there anything that kind of not necessarily scares you, but gets that anxious feeling or some sort of discomfort that you've experienced? 9 years pro is a long career, and you're a gamer, and you bring it every night. So is there anything that, before a game, night before, a day before, pre-game, is there something that, you experience with that?
Yeah, for sure. I always say, people always ask me, does your hands hurt or your body hurt? And, for sure it does. There's no offense or up. There's the physical side of it that you get banged up here and there. But more than that, definitely the mental side of it is, I would say it's probably 80-20, to be honest with you. It's more mental than everything. I mean, the best way I can describe it, and I like to talk to people about it, is, I mean, you think of if you were back in school, elementary school or high school, and you had the biggest, baddest kid in your school come up to you at 8 o'clock in the morning and say, hey, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, as soon as the bell rings, I'm coming at you. And you have all day to think about that. So you're sitting in your classes, you're thinking about it. Oh my gosh, is this guy going to this guy's coming at me. He said he's going to get me, this and that. And, that's kind of what it's like in a hockey game. I mean, everyone reads stat packs. They know the schedules. They know guys on other teams that play a similar role and stuff like that. So, you go into a game, you go to the rink in the morning skate, you see you're in the lineup, and now you got all day that weighs on you, knowing that, hey, at 7 o'clock tonight or 7:30 tonight, whenever the game is, that anxiety and pressure, I would say, builds up over the course of the day. And I've seen over 9 years, a lot of guys crumble from it, that they really just can't handle the pressure, because it is a lot of pressure for sure. And one of the big things is not only physically is, could I lose the fight? Could I get hurt? Could I this or that? I find a lot of young kids today, it's not even the physical aspect of it is that they're worried about getting hurt. They're worried about being embarrassed in front of the 7,000 fans out there. And I find that holds them back more than actually physically not wanting to do it or anything like that. In physically worried about it than anything. They're worried, the anxiety of, oh, what are my peers going to think of me if I lose in front of all these people, my coaches, my teammates, the fans, the ownership, everything. And I feel like that really weighs on a lot of players and a lot of people, and negatively can bring them down for sure.
Yeah. So what would you say some of the ways you were going back to junior, so 10 plus years you've been doing it. What are some ways now that you kind of things you use to, distract your mind and calm your mind and, just stay grounded?
For sure. I mean, obviously, for me, having a wife and a daughter, like I try to my best not to bring the rink home with me. So as soon as I clock out, it's I think of it. It is a job, but I think of it as soon as I go to work, I put my work boots on. I do my job at practice, and as soon as I leave practice, I try not to bring it home with me and not have it spread onto them. So I one of the biggest tools I use is I talk to them all the time. I mean, still to this day, I can tell you, if I'm going into a game and I know I'm going to have to fight a little bit, there's definitely still that anxiety and that butterflies in there. But like my wife can tell, I'll talk to her and say, I'm a little bit nervous about this game, stuff like that. And the biggest thing and advice I can give to people would be, you're not alone for sure. And it's not just in the sports world or anything like that, just like your daily life of job, the anxiety of, if you're a college kid, turning in papers on time or getting good grades, or you're working a job and, you got to satisfy your boss and the anxiety of that. And the biggest thing I can just say is just don't keep it inside, because it'll just eat you from the inside out. It will just absolutely eat at you. So find someone to talk to, with your parents, your friends, people like that, support staff, because if you talk to people and let it out, it really, I would say, 90% of the time for me, that's just how I release it. I just talk about it. I tell my wife, like, hey, I'm gonna have to fight this guy tonight. Maybe, this is what kind of fight here is. I might have to take some hits, blah, 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 blah. But after you talk about it, you definitely feel way better about it. And just the biggest thing is that I try not to bring my job home with me. I try to leave it at the rink. And I feel with this role in hockey specifically, I feel that you read a lot of the that 1 year summer there, where a lot of the enforcers were suicides and overdoses and stuff like that. Is if you go and dig deep into all those guys, is they couldn't leave the job at home. And it's tough. It's definitely tough, you know, and kind of goes back to what I was saying about kind of that school mentality is, you know, they took the job home with them and couldn't leave it at the rink. So it weighed on them 24/7. So them tossing and turning in bed, not being able to get to sleep because they're worried about a fight or something like that, you know, so they turn to, you know, alcohol or drugs or stuff like that to try to take the edge off, just to be able to sleep, because their mind is constantly going, the anxiety of the role that they play. So and you know, when you dig deep into those guys, it doesn't seem like they have a lot of avenues to want to talk to people or stuff like that. You know, a lot of people think this role and the role that the tough guy plays is, you know, they're macho, tough guy, this, that. They don't need to talk to anybody. They got their things under control, but that's completely not it at all. I mean, it's a tough role for sure. And it weighs differently on everyone for sure.
Do you feel as though you've had anxiety manifest in other aspects of your life, regardless, just growing up or whatever the case is? Or do you feel like it's mostly kind of based around, okay, knowing I have to fight someone tonight or whatever the case is? Do you feel you've always had some sort of generalized anxiety, or has it sort of only stemmed around, you know, fighting or just, you know, a big opponent, something like that?
I would say a lot of it is definitely not even just like fighting, but just maybe hockey in general. Even when it's not the fighting, but I remember, you know, and everyone can probably vouch for this, is, you know, a young kid trying to make your first rep team or like travel team or anything like that. The anxiety of the tryouts of, am I going to make it? And then the anxiety of, I remember the way they used to do it in my town was, after your 3-day tryout, you guys would line up outside the dressing room and go in for one-on-one interviews. And I remember just like as a young kid just sitting there shaking, like, am I going to make it? Am I going to make it? Like, what's going to happen here? And if I don't make it, what's going to happen? So I would say a lot of mine definitely is through the sports world of it for sure. But I mean, you know, now that I think about it, but even just like, you know, first day of high school, stuff like that, like, am I going to be able to fit in with these kids? That, like, the anxiety kind of, you know, it definitely is more sports related, but definitely small other aspects of my life for sure. I've definitely dealt with it.
Yeah, I think especially, you know, growing up in Western Canada, they have the Bantam draft for the WHL. So that's already a super young age that you're kind of getting funneled into this circuit of like rapid development. I mean, here in the States, we have the development programs, and we have the festival camps and all that stuff. And that starts what, 13, Flo?
Yeah,
Yeah,
around there.
So already from a super young age, you're already pushed into this, you know, fast track of a development circuit. And that's hard for a lot of players to keep up. And that's kind of, I think we're same with you, like kind of my anxiety developed, was always like worried about making those teams. Because if I didn't, then I wasn't going to play Division One. I wasn't going to go to the NHL, whatever the case is. So it's hard though to realize what that is when you're super young. It's just nervous energy is what it comes off as, and then you realize it just like manifests as you get older. It's like, oh, that's anxiety. And yeah, I'd agree with you though, saying that it mine stems from sports as well. And when you take a step back and take a bit of a break, you realize, wow, like it seems like you're applying too much pressure on it, you know?
Absolutely, 100%. You know, this last summer, you know, where COVID hit and things like that, and we had the extended for the hockey world, we had the extended off season, I would say. I honestly, after my team in the ECHL decided to sit out for the year, and I had signed another contract with a new team, and I knew that at that time, like, I was going to go to Kansas City. You know, this summer, I honestly was pretty stress free. You know, I for the first time in a long time, I didn't have to worry about, you know, I could just train and enjoy my family life and enjoy a lot of things that I didn't get to necessarily enjoy before, when I was so nervous and anxiety about where am I going, what's going to happen. You know, once I cemented myself into going and play for Kansas City, and I knew that was going to happen. And then, you know, I had that so much free time with the COVID hold up there. You know, I honestly felt stress relief being able to go fishing with my daughter and spend time and still be able to train and work out and stuff. But I just had so much extra time to do things that I not necessarily had the time to do before. And I honestly, it was really stress relieving for sure.
Yeah. I mean, you ask any pro hockey player, the summers are so important to the point where, you know, you're putting off all these like family parties or just like downtime because you're like, all right, I got to go skate and then I got, you know, lift and then I got to do extra stuff on my own. So, I mean, it's probably to be able, you know, like you said, go fishing with Isabella and all that stuff. It definitely puts life in perspective, makes you kind of appreciate having that time and all that stuff. So, but going back to, you know, Kansas City, signing the contract, realizing you have more time. That's where you and I were together, met. It's Kansas City. Obviously, things didn't work out for either of us. Was there any sort of anxiety or, you know, nervousness once that happened, just because of COVID and, you know, the lack of teams, or, and, you know, what was your thought process there? Because, you know, obviously a wife and daughter and just kind of our career. So what was your thought process during that?
Yeah, for sure. You know, obviously, it definitely didn't turn out how, like you said, either of us had planned. And, you know, there was a lot of anxiety. There was a 2 or 3 very, very stressful weeks there because, you know, not only is that my job that, you know, so puts food on the table to be able to a paycheck, my daughter, you know, being in school, having to move that now, not knowing what was next. There was high anxiety, definitely. It was a very stressful, I would say 2 to 3 weeks there. And it was just the unknown of what was going to come next and what was the right move for us. Really, what was a big one, because like I said, she was in school at the time. At the time that I got released from Kansas City, she had just settled into a good routine of school, this and that, kind of felt comfortable. And now we're uprooting her, moving her somewhere else. And it was like, well, what's the right play? Do I go somewhere else and maybe it's a short-term thing and then I'm having to move her again? So that was a definitely very high, stressful, high anxiety, situation for sure, and a time. I'm glad it all worked out the way that it did. You know, but definitely it was very stressful 2 to 3 weeks for sure.
Yeah, that's got to be tough. I mean, just trying to figure out, like you said, like making the right decision. It's almost like, you know, a lot of people, I suffer from this. It's like a paralysis by analysis, where you just kind of feel stuck trying to figure out what's the right decision, you know? And here I am, I'm only 27. I have myself to worry about, but you have a wife, a kid, you know, a family to worry about, and you don't want to keep moving around. I can only imagine how amplified that feeling must be, you know, really trying to get it right.
Absolutely, yeah. It's like you said, it's one thing, you know, it's high stress just trying to worry about yourself, and then you add 2 other people into the equation, and you know, definitely, you know, 2 people that obviously I love with all my heart and care everything about, so I only want the best for. So that was definitely very tough, because it was like, you know, maybe one, you know, talk to my agent, and one opportunity would come up somewhere, but it was like, you know, maybe that's a good opportunity for me hockey wise, but is that a good opportunity for my family? Is the school system good there? Is she going to be able to, the housing situation going to be good for my family, you know, safe, stuff like that. So there was so much that weighed into it and weighed on me, to make the right call. And then, like you said, at the end of the day, it's, did I make the right call? So that was really important, that it really wasn't about me anymore, and it was about shifted towards the other 2, what was the best situation for them. And like I said, I'm just very, very happy and thankful that it worked out good in the end.
How would you say that you go about managing it? I mean, you're not the only person playing with a family, so I mean, maybe there's guys listening who are in similar situations who could use some advice, or are maybe going to go through the same thing. So how would you say, you know, you go about it? What's some things that you kind of do? Obviously, you mentioned talking to your wife before games, and that helps you. I think talking's huge, but you know, just kind of mitigating the anxiousness and kind of keeping yourself grounded when it comes to making these important decisions. What do you do?
Yeah, you know, I'm big on, especially if it's a big decision and stuff like that. Like, I'm real big on, like, I'm maybe be old school, but I like to like literally take a pen and paper and write down, you know, pros and cons. What are the pros and cons of these situations? How is this going to benefit me? How is it going to benefit the family? You know, what are the negatives to it? And so just try to, whatever decision or things that you may be anxious or stressed about, like, and you're looking for a clearer vision of what that may be, never rush for sure into it. That's kind of what I've learned over the last 9 years is, if you're rushing into something, you're probably not thinking of it the full spectrum of it. So I'm big on writing the pros and cons down, and writing like almost a daily journal every day of, okay, this is how I feel today. And the thing is I feel like you need to give it, if you're going to make a decision, give it a couple days, because every day you could feel different. You could wake up and feel different every morning. So write down how you felt that day 1, day 2, day 3, and then go over them and kind of analyze it all and say, okay, as an overview of it all, this is the clear right path for me because I've educated decision on this instead of rushing into it. But with just the more anxiety and stuff too, I like to write a lot in a journal and write things down. That's big on me. And then I can kind of just reflect on, this day I felt like this, or this day I felt like that. And, kind of have it as a log of, okay, why was I feeling like this? Why was I anxious about this, or things like that. And I find that really helps a lot.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I tend to do that as well to kind of, when I feel really overwhelmed, writing stuff on paper. And I think people think of journaling as like a really formal thing, sitting down, writing paragraphs or pages worth of stuff. I think just simply getting something out of your head and onto paper is enough, just to kind of clear those thoughts, kind of reorganize them, put them somewhere visual. You could see it and touch it, and cross stuff off. I think that's just enough right there. I think it makes a big difference, and I'm sure you can attest to that.
Absolutely. I mean, if somebody looked at my things that I write down, they would definitely probably not call it a journal. It probably looks like chicken scratch to them with how unorganized it is and that. But it's really just, like you just said, it's really just getting it out of your head and out of your body onto paper. And it's almost like a release when you write it down, and you feel so much better about it because now you're looking at things thoroughly, and it's not just in your head like a hamster wheel going over and over and over and over again. You can actually look at it fully. And like you said, it doesn't have to be a proper journal or anything. It could be on the back of a newspaper ad. Who cares what it is, as long as it's out of your head and on paper. I think that's the biggest thing for sure.
Yeah, I mean, people always come on, like all the guests we've had have, people talk about the meditation, the breathing exercises and stuff like that. But I mean, Danny, would you say that the journaling or just writing things down is probably the biggest one that people kind of always resort to and, say that that's their go-to, because you don't really think twice about it, because you're literally just sitting there, and then all of a sudden you realize you're just running out of paper. You got to turn the page and keep going and going and going. When it comes to talking to somebody, you got to be like, hey, like, I got to talk to you about something. I got to get something off my chest. It's a lot harder than just picking up a piece of a pen and piece of paper. So I'm guilty of not using it more, but the times that I do, I end up writing 3-4 pages worth of it.
For sure. And I think a big tool too is just define something that you thoroughly enjoy. Obviously we thoroughly enjoy hockey. We all love hockey and stuff like that, but define something that you love to do, whether it be, if you're a reader or you're a golfer, or you're a, swimmer, whatever, and use that as a release point. I remember when I was really, really young, and I would be stressed about things. I would go out into my backyard and we had a big ravine behind our house, and I would just tee up golf balls and just hammer them into the ravine. And I found it a great stress relief. And at the time I didn't think too much about it. I just thought like, hey, this is fun, like, kind of do it. But now that I look back on it as an older person and looking back on it, it was a huge stress relief for me, that it was, if I was, nervous or have anxiety about hockey, I could just go release and have fun and, smack golf balls. And, for that hour or however long I was out there, I was just thoroughly, mind was clear. And, now that I'm older and I look back at that was a great stress release for me. And, now having a daughter, I use her sometimes as a stress relief. We'll go to Top Golf and we'll go to, play laser tag and stuff like that. And, that is just a stress relief that, has nothing to do with hockey. And for the time that we're doing it, I'm not thinking about, the stresses of hockey, who I'm fighting or this or that, the potentials of being traded or this or that. It's just, great stress relief for that time, and kind of clears your mind.
Yeah, I think it's tough because in pro you have so much free time, and I think it's a good thing, but can be a bad thing too. I know that when I was in a pretty bad spot last year, I was in a bad spot to begin with, just with my own head, and then on top of that, you leave the rink, you come home, and then you have the rest of the day to just sit and think about it. And I think that drove me into even worse of a spot. And I think, like you said, like having something to do is just so important. And even if it's away from hockey, it's even better, And I'm sure being a father and a family man is huge, because that's enough that you have to worry about right there that can just get your mind off things. So I'm sure that's been helpful. But yeah, definitely just finding an activity to get your mind off the game and get away from the day-to-day monotony of what it could be, just the same thing every day of just going home doing nothing. I think it's important to have an activity. So I think that's great that you mentioned the golf balls and doing stuff with your daughter, going to play laser tag, top golf. I think that stuff is so important. I think a lot of guys who are finding themselves kind of slipping a little bit, I think that's something they can kind of grab to get their mind off of stuff.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, like you said, in pro hockey, you do have so much time, and, you leave the rink, and if you're, had a bad day at the rink or just a bad day in general, and you're just sitting in your room at the apartment, and you're just in your head hamster wheeling over and over and over again, in replaying in your head maybe the bad play you made, or oh, the coach yelled at me today or whatever, and it's just building up, and it's just like you said, if you can just escape from that, and whether it's picking up a guitar, or if you like music, or anything like that, is just such a great stress relief to kind of get your mind off that, and a little bit of a release for a bit.
Yeah. No, yeah. I totally agree with that. Are you vocal with other guys? Is it easy for you to be vocal with other guys in the team just when kind of something's going on with you personally, let's say, just because I tend to be an open book, so I'll like just find a couple guys I get close with and I'll just talk to them, whatever. But do you find it's harder for you to open up with guys in the team or just guys throughout the leagues?
I'm kind of the same way. I'm a really open person, and I love to chat. So, no, I guess in that aspect, no, I'm lucky in that aspect that I have no problem, talking about things. I'm a big talker. I'm no Flo can probably attest to that, but, I've just been, really open. And I think that's maybe earlier in my career, I wasn't as much. I was more, nervous of what people would think, or, they're going to go, oh my God, this guy never shuts up, like, kind of thing. But later in my career, for sure, it's just been a thing. Like, if I'm like, oh man, like I got to fight so-and-so tonight, like, kind of thing, or, oh man, like coach yelled at me today, like, oh shit, like, kind of thing. So I think definitely the earlier, as soon as I found out that it was completely normal, because probably 30 other guys in this room are probably going through the same thing at different stages of their life, or have gone soon through it. It really made it easier for me to, just be an open book, for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. And, is there any advice, or, just something you knew back when you were a younger guy, that you wish you knew, that now, that you could possibly let other guys know, that would benefit them? Maybe it's a guy that is a young guy coming up and wants to be a fighter, or a guy that he's middle of the pack junior guy, but at the pro level he'll have to fight, or just some advice that you could give younger guys, or anyone for that matter.
Yeah, for sure. I think kind of I touched on it a second ago, is just never be afraid to talk to people about things, because honestly, even if they don't play hockey, just in life in general and people in general, anxiety, pressure, stress, everyone at some point in their life goes through it, whether they're going to be honest and tell you about it or not, and they're an open book or they're not an open book, they're definitely going through it. So you never know. And at this stage in my career, you never know when you're open with somebody and you let them know that it's okay to talk about their fears, worries, anxiety, stress, stuff like that. You never know if by you opening up, if they go, okay, well, this guy's a veteran on our team. He opened up about it. So maybe I should open up about some things that, as a rookie, I'm worried about or things like that. So my biggest thing would definitely just be, don't boggle it up inside. Like bottling it up inside isn't going to do you any good. It's just going to create more and more and more pressure, stress, anxiety. You got to get it off your chest. And, obviously we've talked about different ways to get it off your chest, but whatever that way may be, I think talking about it, the activities, things like that is the way and the avenue to go. But definitely you just can't bog it up inside, because someone else out there, somewhere, someplace is going through the same thing you are, and you can get through it. And, the best way to do it is definitely just to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's never easy going through it alone. And I think it's awesome that you're coming on here and telling your story, because I think a lot of people are going to listen to it and be like, okay, like, I'm not the only one going through this. There's someone else out there, and maybe you never hear about it. Maybe you never know, but I'm sure there's someone in their room by themselves who's going to hear it and be like, okay, like, I know I'm not alone. And that in itself will give them a boost of confidence, or maybe the boost that they need to go tell somebody, or it's a professional, whoever, seeking help, whoever they feel they need to talk to. But I think it'll be awesome that people hear this and hear what you just said. It's always hard being the first one to open up. So I think it's great that you came on and told your story and were vulnerable. And I think that's such a key point you said about not letting it sit inside. Because when you let it fester in your head, it's the outcome typically is never good. And, I don't know how you guys have been, but I've definitely tried to let it sit there for a bit, and it can get pretty ugly. And even I'm an open book, and I've tried to hold it in, and it's not a good thing to do. So.
No, for sure. I agree. It's a lot of sleepless nights if you don't let it off your chest. And, I always talk about just winning every day. That's like a big thing in our household is, when people try to think about, winning a month or a year or stuff like that, like that's a really big, tall task to ask. But if you can just try to win every single day and go to sleep every night feeling good about yourself, and that you let everything off your chest that day, those days turned into those months turned into years of good days. So that's another thing I would definitely say to people: just try to win every day. Don't try to think about the big picture too much. Just, if you can win every day, those days will add up eventually.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Danny, I don't know if you have anything else, but Collie, we really appreciate it. And we haven't had you being the guy you are, just knowing you for a couple months, one of the best teammates I've had. But the role you play, everyone, like you said way back, everyone, like the macho tough, like, it's kind of hesitant to talk about like feelings for everyone. But for some guys, I feel like they're more hesitant because they're trying to be this macho tough guy. So I think you coming on is going to make a massive difference for a lot of people. So I really do appreciate it.
No, anytime, guys. I'm glad to be on, and thanks for having me, for sure.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
No problem. Anytime, guys.
See you, buddy. Thank you.